Everybody, welcome to another drive-through board game blog. Today I'm going to talk about my top games from 2014. Now in years past I've kind of broke them out into categories. I just kind of pushed in my chips and I'm just going to do a top 10 this year. The categories weren't really shaking out like they have for me in previous years. If you watch this channel at all, you know I like just about every style of game. I just kind of like good games or games that I think are good anyway. And I do want to, before I jump into the top 10, is I want to make a mention of a couple of newer style of games in a sort of a category that was largely ignored. Then I've got one honorable mention and then I'll jump into the top 10. So the first thing to note is there's no war games really on this category because frankly I've got two war games that I would even consider, and I feel really dumb having a war game category because I'm not like a big war game guy. I don't play a lot of the traditional squad level hex encounter big campaign games that take a long time. So I kind of feel dumb, having a war game category, but I do enjoy war games and wargaming. So I'll just make quick note of two, one of which I've reviewed here, and this is War Stories Liberty Road. This is an awesome squad level tactical game. You can go and check out my review. It's very different, got a lot of new cool mechanics. There's a lot of mechanics revolving around the fog of war, kind of the surprise aspect. Which is hard to explain without getting into a lot of detail about the game, but definitely go check out the review on that. Really innovative, great game, and I highly recommend folks take a look at this if you're into wargaming at all. And it works pretty okay, I think, as a kind of an introductory type of war game. The other one, which I haven't reviewed yet, but I've made a promise to myself to review this in January, is Fire in the Lake. This is the only coin game I haven't really talked about. I've only played it 3 times, which is probably enough to review it, but for some reason I want to play it again. And I'm kind of slacking. This last few months, for some reason, has been probably the most overwhelming in terms of the number of games to review. And I've had to sift through a lot of not so great ones, like more than normal for some reason. So anyway, this is a good game. I'd recommend it if you're a fan of the coin series, but I'll speak more about it because they kind of are bleeding together a little bit, where you've got Andean Abyss and all this other ones, and it's kind of like, well, okay, this is doing the coin thing, but it's funny because these are all like about the nuance and the nooks and crannies and the little details that make it go, oh, I see how this was treated to be more like the Vietnam War and stuff. So it does a good job of all that, but I don't feel like I can say anything clever about it. So I'm gonna play it again until I can figure out something fun to say, and then we'll go from there. But it's a fun game for sure. And the other thing that I'm ignoring here are some new games that I just got like right before Christmas, and I'm really excited about them, but you'll find that a lot of the games on my top 10, they've kind of baked for a while over the year and so forth. So the first one, this is going to take me a second, give me a second, is Shadows of Brimstone, and I have got this box and this box here, so that's the whole game. And there's a bunch of new stuff, I guess, coming out in the summer for this to kind of complete the game, so to speak. Based on the Kickstarter. This is a really fun co-op game. It's sort of Old West meets Cthulhu, or that sort of horror genre. And it's a co-op, but it has some great rules for running a campaign, and it has a sort of the thing that's really cool is that Myth kind of started to do, and it's sort of a procedurally scripted generated campaign, which you can do, but the rules and stuff where that was kind of missing for Myth, like how to actually put things together and run, adventure after adventure, that's all been thought out. There's like a whole town phase. So if you ever played like Warhammer Quest or something, or like Descent, where you have these different phases you can do in between missions, it's got that built into it. And sometimes the outcome of your mission will have an effect back on the town, back where you go and buy, extra guns and goods and all that kind of cool stuff. This has that. If you get both boxes, which I recommend, you're going to have a ton of variety. So my one caveat with that one is putting together the models is a huge pain, and the worst models I've ever had to put together. And I put together Space Hulk and Samurai Battles, which is a game nobody's heard of, but lots of models for lots of other games. This is by far the worst. So that's my one caveat with that game, but the game I think stands out, and I was like really debating, oh, should I put this in my top 10? So it's right up there, but I feel like I want to play it some more. I've only played that one twice. I want to get into it a little bit more, and I really don't know where it sits, but I have a lot of fun with it. Now the other one that I'm ignoring, which you're going to see on like everybody's list probably, is Imperial Salt, and I have not played Descent 2.0 or Descent 1.0 for that matter. And I played this 5 times now, if you include like each mission as a as a play session. And so I played the skirmish and just did kind of the tutorial, and then started a campaign actually last night. We played through a couple of those, and so there's been some interest to play through a campaign. But I've heard that before. So we'll see if the campaign keeps going. Really fun. I mean, and it's one thing about this is like, this is a little bit closer to jumping in the top 10 than Brimstone. It's weird because Fantasy Flight is, I feel like they almost like cookie cuttered this. And I'm conflicted between saying that, because I'm like, well, the reason I feel like that is because it's so polished. Like the core rules are so simple, the line of sight rules are awesome. The way the combat dice work, I know it's just like Descent pretty much. So I was like, man, they just cookie cuttered this and pasted on the Star Wars theme. But then when you play with it and you get into sort of the different, nooks and crannies of the different characters and what the Imperial player can do for their turn, it's awesome. I mean, it fits the theme. It goes so well. It's just like, in the skirmish game is actually pretty good. It's a good skirmish game. I wouldn't put it up there with, let's say, Battle Lore or like a Mage Wars was kind of your 2-player head-to-head. It's not that good, but it's pretty good. It's fun. It's a very simple, streamlined rule set, but it works, and it feels like, what I want to say about this game is Fantasy Flight is so good at what they do, they make it look easy. And that's kind of where I come back with that cookie cutter thing. Is like, they just knocked this one out. Like, they weren't even trying. Like, there's like, oh, we just did it. Yeah, good dungeon crawl, Star Wars, hit it out of the park. Again, so I really, in the way the rules are presented, there's like multiple rule books, but it makes it so easy to digest. You can literally be playing in like 20 minutes from opening the box. I mean, I literally just went in, and I've never played Descent. So anyway, enough of that. So those are the kind of the games I'm glossing over that I think are excellent, but because of different circumstances aren't going to be in a top 10. Now, I have one honorable mention, and then I'll jump into the top 10. Try to make this quick. I know a lot of people just want to see a list. They don't really care why, but I do, so that's why I'm talking. Honorable mention is Paperback. Really enjoyed this. I think it's my wife's favorite game now. Hard to say, but she really likes Scrabble, and I like Scrabble too. But this, to me, replaces Scrabble, Scrabble's like a classic game. But it's a great 2-player game. It's got a lot of strategy and stuff in there, and this one is really close. I feel like I could definitely knock some other ones out of the top 10, but this is a huge recommendation. It's a first time, as far as I know, designer publisher type thing. It's a deck building where you build words just like you would try to build words in Scrabble. Really fun, awesome game. And so this is the one game I feel really bad about like not putting in my top 10. If I had to like make a cut and say, oh, you're not as good as the others. Well, this one is actually. So let's just jump into the top 10. I have to remember. So the number 10 now, and in case you didn't notice by the title of the YouTube video, in cooperation with the publisher of the number 1 game, we're going to be giving away a copy of that game. So the number 10 game, though, is a game that I have to dig for. I apologize. And this one is the Golden Ages. This is, to me, sort of fits that grail game of the 90-minute Euro streamlined Civ. They do combat great. The way that the economy works, the exploration works, it plays very quickly. You can kind of play with different strategies. You can be real aggressive. You can try to kind of corner off on your own side of the empire. You really want to play this with 3 or 4 players. It says 2 players. I tried it with 2 players. It's like okay with 2 players. Like, it still works and serviceable and it functions, but once you've played it with 3 or 4, you're like, well, I don't want to play with 2 anymore. And it feels very Civ-like. It's got this grandiose scale. You go from sort of like prehistory into modern age, and it's got cool like variability for different bonus cards and things. Very Euro style though. A lot of people don't like the art. I think the art's amazing. I love this guy's art. His name is Alexandre Rocher. He does a lot of really interesting different style of art. It's not airbrushed like everybody really likes, but it's a good, fantastic game. And so that is my number 10. And I think this is coming to the US. I can't be quoted on that because I'll get in trouble, but I think somebody's bringing this to the US. I'm pretty sure. But I'm not 100% sure though, because I thought they would have announced it by now, so maybe not. But I hope somebody does. And so the number 9 game is going to be Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is replaced Suburbia, I guess. It's probably unfair to Suburbia because it's kind of in the trilogy, maybe not. You know, I don't know why they're compared. This really has nothing to do with Suburbia. Subdivision has more to do with Suburbia than this game, but I like this. I like this where the players have to set the prices for the different rooms. So everybody's building a castle, and then each turn somebody is sort of the auctioneer or the merchant master or whatever, and they take all the rooms that are dealt and they set the price, and then they get to buy them last after everybody gets a shot at them. And I love when games do that. You don't really ever see that you know, in games. It's kind of a weird sort of auction where somebody, you know, sets the price. They got to be real careful about it. They don't want to make something too cheap. It's a real cool conundrum, and the cool, you know, minor special abilities and things and the bonus cards you get for scoring, you know, keep the game pretty fresh and interesting. And they also keep it kind of light and a little, you know, it adds enough of a little bit of luck that you don't have to sit there and play the game 100 times to have a shot at winning at least. So this has been a hit with the game group and also playing with my family as well. So that's also why this one gets a little bit of bonus, and it keeps me really interested. So definitely a good one. This one could be higher on the list for sure. Then the number 8 game is going to be Star Realms. So if you can't see that, that is 2 deck boxes. I've got your sort of your main deck here, and then your all like your starting cards and special expansion cards here. The game doesn't really come with a usable box. Star Realms is awesome. Star Realms is an iOS app. Star Realms, I feel, probably is underrated to a certain degree. I think once you add in a couple of expansions, which I know most people don't have, so I apologize, but once you add those in, it adds a lot of variability. And if you include the iOS app, I've probably played this, I've played about 60 or 70 times on the iOS. So add in, you know, probably about 20 plays, maybe a little bit less. So I'm getting close to about 100 plays or so. And really, I come back to this one because you have this opportunity for drama in Star Realms, where I've played a lot of games, we'll just call them Sparky, and you know, where I'll be up, like he'll be at 17 life or 10 life, and maybe I'll be playing a blue deck and gaining life, and I'll be like 60 to 10, you know. And then he'll come back and win because he's been teching up, and then he loads out all of his outpost bases, and then he just hammers me for 30 and 25 on a turn. So you have a lot of cool moments for those big dramatic swings, where it doesn't feel like it's swingy because of just like random dumb luck. I mean, it feels like, you know, you can tech up, you can do different strategies. I see a lot of people say, oh, you should just do blue and gain life. Well, I mean, I've beaten that, and I've lost by, you know, having tons of gains of life from blue. And so the deck building itself is interesting. So people compare it to Ascension, but like in Ascension, you can kind of build for strategy, but this is like, it seems to be a little bit more developed, and this doesn't even really have an expansion. It's got the main game and plus some little expansion packs that add to it. Whereas like Ascension has tons of expansions and everything. So yeah, that one probably at the end of the day is maybe a little bit better. I haven't really played the latest expansion for Ascension that much, but the last block was awful with the whole energy. That was horrendous. So this one maybe with some more expansions would probably catch and probably pass Ascension. But if you took like base Ascension, this decimates base Ascension. It just decimates it. And also the 2-player game is great, but you have the opportunity to play raid mode, and the co-op mode is serviceable. I mean, you can at least do it. There's some decent rules there to play solo, but the raid mode is really fun. That's also very exciting. So this one, what it retains to me, as you can sit there and Poindexter all the you know, mechanics and stuff, but there's retains the excitement. You know, there's a thrill to this that after however many plays, I keep coming back to it. So definitely a great game, and I feel definitely is underrated. Now number 7 here is Panamax. You get the box. So this one here is probably the heaviest sort of strategy game, yeah, give or take, on the list. And this one is definitely unique. This one has interested me the most out of the strategy games that I've played this year. I played a lot of good ones, and a lot of good ones, another good one I should say, from the designers of this, Madeira, which was kind of at the beginning of the year. But this one has a uniqueness to it that, you know, a lot of the others don't have. They kind of feel like, oh, this was like this similar game by the same designer, or this was, you know, I played a game just like this, but it's slightly tweaked, which is kind of the Euro problem, right? That's the ever you know, non-stop Euro problem. I was like, oh, it's like this, but with this other mechanic, so that's a twist, and now it's somehow different. But as somebody that is very much into Euro games, this is kind of a nice breath of fresh air. There's a certain brutality to this. There's a certain sort of co-opetition, right, where we're kind of shipping goods on each other's ships, and there is a lot of dynamic play. You can really tinker with your strategy here. So as opposed to games where it's more about drafting points off of different areas of the board and trying to just be purely abstractly optimal, which is fine. I really enjoy that, actually. This has a different sort of feel to it. So it's a little bit push away from the last couple of years of the modern Euro, which has been sort of, you know, charioted by Stefan Feld, who really can't be touched, I think, in a lot of ways, because he sort of is the master of that style. It's interesting to see other people sort of probably not consciously try to copy him or something, but that's a whole other discussion. But my point is, this is really a step backwards and forwards. You go watch the review, I'm a little bit more articulate about that, but it feels very much like an old school economic style Euro, but with a little bit of sort of a modern sensibility. So really is an excellent game, and I think any really good Euro lover is really, this to me, this is the game that you should take a look at this year, as far as something that is different and not just another like number cruncher, right? So that is, what was that, number 7. Number 6 now is way overlooked, underrated probably. Everybody I've talked to that's played it really enjoys it. So number 6 is Sons of Anarchy. And I don't know if it's the theme of this that is keeping it down, because it's very much an R-rated theme. I mean, NC-17 theme, really. There's prostitution, there's drugs, there's gun running. Not a very nice thing. It's definitely not a family game. I don't bring this out and play this with the family ever. But really fits the theme of the TV show. Now, the TV show I don't like anymore. I hate the TV show. The last 2 seasons or so were awful. Just horrific television. Now, the first season was awesome, and then not the second to last, but like the third to last season was good. That was kind of a return to form where it sort of dipped down. But the first 2 seasons are really good. The first season is amazing television. And just stop watching. If you haven't watched Sons of Anarchy, watch the first season and then stop. Because it'll leave you hanging, but it's kind of a nice leave you hanging, I guess. It could be. But this is great. This fits the theme of that. And not only that, it kind of fits the theme of gangster. A lot of gangster games are sort of glorified cartoony mafia style games, you know, old Italian guys back in the 30s and 40s. It's that kind of style of gangster. And that's fine, because it's easy, it's historical, it's been glamorized in movies and stuff. This is very brutal and gritty. And you feel like kind of a gangster, because there's a lot of backstabbing. There's some sort of, I don't want to call it blind bidding, because I think that would scare a lot of people away. And I've seen that argument like, oh, it's got blind bidding, but no, really take a step back and look at how it's applied to the theme and how you apply your guns and things to the combat, which is what happens when you have combat. Really just great, really awesome. There's room for wheeling and dealing. And to me, it doesn't get so overburdened with the negotiation stuff, which is kind of, that's for me personally, it's a weird spot, because if it gets too much negotiation, it kind of like bogs down, and it's like, oh God, somebody just make a deal, you know. This is kind of has a light sifting of that, where you can sort of guess that, you know, another player's winning, so maybe you give somebody $1 or something for some guns or whatever. And so it works really, really well with this, and the area control and stuff is really neat. So I think Eurogamers would like this one, actually. Now, there is some dice combat and things, but there are some ways to mitigate that with, you know, sort of hoarding guns. But if you're sensitive to any kind of like real gritty, brutal theme, then, you know, take care on this one, because it's got some, not really graphic images, but graphic ideas. But I really enjoy this one. The next one is number 5. And I will just, before I start talking about 5 through 1, to me there's a real cutoff here. Between, you know, 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10. Not drastic, like, well, I actually don't like 6 through 10. That's not the truth. I really, really like those. But 1 through 5, all of these kind of could be number 1 in a certain degree. Except for probably the number 1. I mean, I would be remiss if whatever my number 1 is, which you'll find out in a minute, isn't. But these really are knocking on the door of number 1. So, number 5 is Dead of Winter. And now a lot of people want to know, has it replaced Battlestar Galactica? I don't know. I only played Battlestar a couple of times, and I really enjoyed it, really liked it. And then I played this game called BSG Express, which is sort of like a dice version of Battlestar Galactica. And it really had the same stuff without a lot of the overhead. Removes a lot of the theme out of the game and, you know, stuff from the show, of course. But it plays about 45 minutes or so, and really enjoyed that. So it's kind of a weird Liar's Dice mixture with the Battlestar Galactica type engine. And that game is actually getting reprinted next year, I think. And it's going to be called Dark Moon. So it takes out the Battlestar theme, which I really like, you know, because I'm a fan of the show. But I think they made some changes to the design. So I'm really excited for that one. But this one, I don't know, this one's really good. Battlestar Galactica Express, honestly, is probably in my top 20 games of all time. And I don't know if I like this more or not. Now, this plays a little bit longer, but that's okay. But the cool thing about this, if you go watch the Scarlet Citadel review of this game, when they get to the review portion of it, they were able to articulate why I like this game better than I was able to articulate when I first played this, because this is one you got to play a few times, and that's really what this top 5 is about, because these are multiple play games, really. And any good game should be that. I don't think it's a requirement of a game that it should last more than 10 plays. If a game only lasts 10 plays for you, that's probably okay, because if you're going to break down the cost per hour per person, you're getting a good deal. But these are multiple plays over many sessions with the same group of people, with different groups of people. Everybody's going to react differently. And this one is like paranoia out the gate. And that's really how you have to approach that. It's because if you kind of take it easy, whoever the betrayer might be, if there's a betrayer in this game, is going to be able to have a field day with you at some point in the game. You've got to be really on people about contributing to the different crises right out of the gate, so you can build up morale, because you need to build up a morale buffer. You need to generate morale, and that's so thematic with this game, is trying to live in this dystopian, just horrifically depressing world. So you've got to be really out the gate, fired up, you know, trying to get the troops going, just like, you know, Rick or somebody like that in Walking Dead. You've got to get people motivated to get themselves out of this muck. And the crossroad cards are really cool. Definitely, I think, an undersold part of the design. I like the secret objectives and how they handled sort of doing that. I mean, we had an interesting situation where we were like, you know what, let's kick both of these people out. We're pretty sure, we know it's one of these two is the traitor, and we're like, if we kick them both out, then it decreases our target goal for the thing. It's like, sorry, one of you is getting kicked out for no reason. And we're like, this is great. This is like one of the crossroad cards, but it's like actually in the game, we're like, yeah, you're out of here. We don't care. You're probably not the traitor, but you're out of here anyway. It didn't actually work out for us, so a little karma there. But so the game has like lots of moments like that. It really fits the zombie theme, and really, if you're somebody that's like into zombies and the whole zombie genre, which I'm not really that into, this is the game to get, really. So number 4 is Impulse. So here we've got Impulse. This is a game by Carl Chudik, and it is sort of a 4X card game, and it plays really quickly. You can play this with 6, and the reason it's so high on my list is I enjoy it kind of with a lot of players. I like it. It's chaotic, it's brutal, it's aggressive. It's like a really nasty, mean, bloody 4X when you play with a lot of players. I don't think anybody else I played it with really likes it with that many players. Now that's because they probably haven't played it as much as me. I've played this one at least 20 times with various different groups of people. We played it a lot at lunch, mostly with 3 players at lunch. Works great with 3 players, also played it with 4. At lunch, and I played with 2 players. I would say you probably want to play with 3 or more. 2 players is okay. The way the strategy changes with this based on player count is very interesting, whereas the map is more important in some ways. Well, these contesting areas of the map is more important with more players, whereas the impulse is a little bit more important than with less players. With more players, the impulse isn't that important. It's with degrees. They're both important, but so the experience is going to change between 2 and 6 players. But I really enjoy this game. I mean, some people complain about sort of the aesthetic and the artwork and the cards. To me, there's so many special effects and things happening. I wouldn't want it really gussied up with a lot of art. I think it's possible. You kind of saw what people have done with Innovation, another game by Carl Chudik, where they've dressed it up a little bit nicer than the original. So I think it's possible with this game, but I like the approach they took. Very streamlined, and it's great. I mean, there's lots of combat. You've got sort of little commerce actions happening, and very much, you know, involved and invested, and all 100% a card game. So I really enjoy that as well. It's just a fun blast to play. I like it so much that if somebody wants to play a 4X game, I'm kind of like, let's just play Impulse twice, you know, instead of Eclipse or something. So I really enjoy Impulse quite a bit. Not everybody's enjoyed that, though. I should caveat that. It's kind of chaotic, I guess, but a lot of people say innovation is chaotic. I don't think it's as chaotic as innovation. But you have to be kind of aware of that. But again, multiple plays, again, the kind of a theme here with these top 5. You really start to get into what people might be capable of and where they might be sort of headed based on, you know, what kind of cards are out there now. And so you can make a better guess that way. So that was number 4. Number 3 here is Splendor. Another one that I played a lot. At least close to 50 times, over 40, but probably not quite 50. I really don't keep track that much. But this game, we played this literally for months straight at lunch, every single day. And we turned this into a knife fight. And I know this game seems to kind of be a love or hate it kind of thing. I think this game is, as much accolades as it's gotten, I think it's overlooked. Now, every game's not for everybody, but like I'm flabbergasted that people think a game is just dry and boring and just kind of, there's nothing special here, you know, like, what? Like, just the way the market shakes out and like the costs of the cards that you get as you sort of draft them and build them for points, they're so just out of left field that the way to kind of warp around and get to the different, sort of chains of scoring these cards as you collect these gems on the cards is so interesting, because like you're like, this one is I'm spending too much for this. Why would I get this? So people will kind of like leave stuff alone, and then you can be like, okay, well, nobody else is going for that. I can kind of tell what, which gems they're getting. So like, I can do this and chain this and this and this. And it becomes kind of a race. So everybody kind of locks into a path. And then you have a couple opportunities in the game to sort of, hate draft. Like, okay, he's going to get that, and that's really going to help him because I've been paying attention. And I'll take that away. He gives me a wild too, so it's not 100% detrimental to my strategy. So there's some real give and take there. And I've seen multiple strategies win. I mean, I'm talking like real strategies, not just tactically playing the game because you've only played it once or twice. We're talking like real strategies, like I am going to get every merchant, which are those tiles at the top, because you get points from the cards you get, or you can kind of trigger merchants to come over. And you can be like, I have 2 points. Trigger merchant. Now I'm at 12 and I just need 1 card to play. And meanwhile, everybody else has kind of basically ignored the merchants, or they're kind of playing both ends of the spectrum. On multiple plays of this, I think this is outstanding, and I'm shocked that people are just kind of like blowing it away, because a lot of people I see, like, they're really into Euro games or whatever, and they're like, whatever, I don't know. It flabbergasts me, to be honest. It really does. So that was number 3. So number 2 is going to be Sentinel Tactics, and I really didn't do this on purpose, but I'm just realizing here, like, a lot of these games are really kind of overlooked. I mean, except for like Dead of Winter, right? And I don't know, Castle's Mad King Ludwig and Panamax probably are going to get some praise. That's just from the hype and the buzz. This game is easily the best superhero game ever, I think. I liked Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is like totally replaced it, and replaced Legendary, and let's not speak of the other comic book deck building game. This one is awesome. Every character's abilities are thematic, the scenarios are really cool. It really reminds me a lot of ways of Descent, where you've got a cool kind of campaign you can go through, and you don't really have an overlord because you're not like, Descent, you can play cards, or sorry, Imperial Salt, Descent, whatever. You can play cards, you can kind of change up things. It's a little bit more thematic that way from the Imperial player perspective, but you've got this comic book in this case, driving the campaign, setting up these different scenarios. And yeah, it's linear, but it feels super, superhero thematically. And, the skirmishes work. You can have these cool, just crazy, interactions of the different special abilities of the players, and everything seems to just work and move along great. And the dice system, the combat system, now that's based on another game, I think, but I think it's been tweaked for sure to work with this. So the combat system and the card interactions and the ability, I mean, it's just, it's amazing to me. I mean, it's such a good superhero game, and it feels so much more thematically superhero than anything I've played. So I hope the game does well. I haven't really seen, I haven't seen it get a lot of buzz. I can't say I've seen it get a lot of negative buzz either, but I'm kind of hoping it does well, so there are going to be more expansions and heroes and villains and things, and different environments would be cool. And so I'm really excited about this. I mean, it's super fun to play, and it plays very quick. You can definitely play a scenario in less than an hour, about 45 minutes or so, once players get the hang of it. But God, it's just such a blast to play. So we're going to go to my number one game, which again, if you leave a comment in the video, then you can get access to possibly winning a One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Now I of course have the expansion here, and this is a game that we have played literally every single game night since it came out. So if somebody got it back in, I don't know, I think it came out pretty early in the year, February or so. I can't remember. I didn't get it. So a couple people had it, and we've been playing it like every week for a year. And now I've got my own copy. And I can't even tell you. What I will tell you is I'm going to put up a video that goes with this video, sort of as a companion. And we recorded just a quick ad hoc game of this. I think there was 5 of us playing. And we played with some of the new expansion cards, and I just said, hey, let me do this. I'm going to record this. I'll keep my eyes shut. I'll get my iPhone going. And it just allows for so much dynamic play to happen, because you can't really get away with the same lie twice, right? So some people are werewolves, some people are villagers. Everybody's got different special abilities now. And you have to be prepared to understand sort of the metagame and your group of friends, or if you played even with another group of people that you don't know, that's another kind of metagame, right? And it's just so fun and strategic at the same way. And there's an element of deduction, but it's not necessarily so, especially with the expansion. The expansion is what really kicked this up, because after you play the base game enough, you can kind of compartmentalize everything and sort of focusedly, sort of logically deduct who the werewolves are. Not all the time, but it kind of happens more and more and more as people play it. So with the expansion stuff, you've got just a lot more variety, a lot more stuff to kind of just counteract and like do things that you weren't able to do before. Like there's the Alpha Wolf now as a quick example. So there's just a lot going on, and it's just so fun. Like, it's such a cool experience to play with people that have played it a lot, or even if they haven't played it a lot. It's just, there's a fun element that goes with that sort of deduction and the strategy, and it's like a perfect sort of marriage of that for me, because it plays so quickly as well. And like, I really don't even like playing regular werewolf or games like that in general. I mean, we used to play Resistance a lot before this. That would be kind of like, end of the night, let's play Resistance. But like, we literally have not played anything like this style of game. We've tried a couple here and there, but it was like, okay, we'll just play one night. It's so fun. And I know a lot of people play this and a lot of people like it, but my hope is that somebody will win this, or hopefully, or go out and buy it and, play it with their group and really try this style of game, because to me, this excels at this style of game. It's just so wonderful, succinct. It plays in 10 minutes and then you're in and you're out, but then you want to play it again. You want to add in a different role. Let's take the Tanner out. We'll put the Witch in. You can just keep doing stuff. And I always look forward to playing this game. And you can start the night off with, if you wrap up a game and then the other group over here is still playing a game, you got, there's 4 or 5 of us here, let's play one night for 10 minutes while they finish up, or play it twice. It just fits in that. But again, over multiple plays, you can just get into people's heads a little bit, you can get into the strategy a little bit, and the metagame and all that stuff. But I just 100% in the game, literally a game that we've played every week for like almost a year. I mean, what else can you say to that? So anyway, One Night is definitely the game of the year. I don't see us stopping anytime soon. That is the #1 game, so I'll have a link here to go watch the playthrough session. I think it's going to be about 7 minutes or so, all told, so it's not very long. So I'll definitely go watch it because there's some cool, interesting moments that happen in it. And if you're a fan of One Night, definitely go watch it because I think you'll pick up on a lot of the things. But definitely, so leave a comment here, and then you'll be entered in a chance to win a copy of One Night Werewolf. And definitely check out all the other 10 games there. And thank everybody for watching the videos this year. I have fun playing games, of course, but I also have fun making the videos. And so it's been a lot of fun still, and I'll definitely be cruising right along through this year. And that's pretty much it. So anyway, everybody take care of themselves and play games, all that good stuff. So leave any comments or feedback. I appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.